Do you all remember when that large container ship crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge, causing it to collapse? When they released the video of this happening, a lot of people started questioning if this was really an accident or not. Now, I'll be the first person to tell you that accidents do happen. Bad things happen all the time. Not everything is a conspiracy. But I got to admit, when watching the video and watching the ship kind of take a sharp turn right towards the bridge support beams, it really kind of looks like this could have been done on purpose. But you don't want to think that someone would do something like that. But then again, look at the world we live in. We live in a world full of wicked people. We live in a world full of, people who are doing horrible things all the time. And with advancements in technology, people can literally hack these ships. They can hack into airplanes and control them from across the world. We know that these things are possible now. And we're constantly undergoing cyber attacks. We're constantly being threatened by all of these other countries around the world. So it's not far-fetched to believe that something like this could purposely happen. Now, the excuses were that the ship lost power, all this and that. We've heard the excuses. And my question is, why were you allowing this ship out there in the first place if this ship was experiencing so many problems? You know what I mean? But I'm not a captain of a cargo ship. I don't know how these things work. I'll admit that. I have no problem admitting that. Most of you all watching this video, you've never piloted or captained a huge container ship either. But my question was always, if you know you're experiencing issues and you're about to come up on a bridge, can you drop anchor? Can you do anything to prevent this catastrophe from happening? Well, apparently they couldn't, or they didn't, and the catastrophe happened. We all watched the bridge collapse, and a few people lost their lives in the process. Now, of course, as I said, theories started spreading around the internet, but the government tried to quickly shut these theories down. They called everyone crazy conspiracy theorists, and then about 2 or 3 days later, they announced that they were opening a criminal investigation. The FBI announced that they were launching a criminal investigation into the incident. Now, why would a criminal investigation be needed in a boating accident unless they think there's a possibility that there's some type of criminal activity involved? Well, often in cases they launch these criminal investigations and the FBI gets involved just to make sure. It doesn't necessarily always mean that there's a criminal aspect to things. It doesn't always mean that they got some details that we don't. They just want to cover all of their bases. That's how these things sometimes work. But here's the weird part. I know that it seems like a lifetime since that bridge collapsed. It's been about 2 months. And the crazy part is that all of the people on board the ship, they have not been allowed to leave the ship. The ship is still sitting there in the water with pieces of the bridge on top of it. And the entire crew of the ship have not been able to leave for 2 months. They've been trapped on the ship for 2 months. Now, I understand that some of them are not citizens of America. They're from other countries. I get that, it's a complicated situation, and some of these people don't have passports and the proper paperwork and all of that, but you would think that something could be done. But no. They have left them on the ship for 2 months straight now. And to make matters even crazier, when the FBI launched their criminal investigation, the FBI came onto the ship. They took all of the electronic devices. They took their computers, the laptops, and they took every single crew member's cell phone. So now the entire crew of this ship, they're on board the ship in the middle of the water, half a bridge laying on top of their ship with no communications to the outside world. Now, I understand that you're doing your investigation. But is there a reason why you don't want anyone on this ship having contact with the outside world? Are you trying to, I don't want to say silence them, but are you trying to indirectly silence them? Are you trying to make sure that details about what happened don't get out there? What's really going on here is my question. Because I think it's crazy that even as, listen, the other day they were doing demolition. They're trying to remove pieces of the bridge, right? Well, they're literally blowing up pieces of the bridge that are on top of this ship, but they are not allowing the people off the ship. So the crew members are literally on board as they do demolition projects, blowing up pieces of the bridge right on top of their boat as if nothing could go wrong. Imagine being trapped in that situation. That's one hell of a situation to be trapped in. But let's go ahead and dive into this article and see if we can find out more about what's going on here. As a controlled explosion rocked the Dali on Monday, nearly 24 sailors remained on board below deck in the massive ship's hull. The simultaneous blast sent pieces of Baltimore's once iconic Francis Scott Key Bridge into the dark waters of Maryland's River. 7 weeks after its collapse left 6 people on the bridge dead and the Dali marooned. Authorities and the crew hope that the demolition will mark the beginning of the end of a long process that has left the 21 men on board trapped and cut off from the outside world thousands of miles from their homes. But for now, it remains unclear when they will be able to return home. The Dali, a 948-foot container ship, was at the start of a 27-day journey from Baltimore to Sri Lanka when it struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge, sending thousands of tons of steel and cement into the river. It left the ship stranded under a massive expanse of shredded metal. A preliminary report found that 2 electrical blackouts disabled equipment ahead of the incident and noted that the ship lost power twice in the 10 hours leading up to the crash. The crew, made up of 20 Indians and a Sri Lankan national, has been unable to disembark because of visa restrictions, a lack of required shore passes, and parallel ongoing investigations by the National Transport Safety Board and the FBI. On Monday, the crew remained on board even as authorities used small explosive charges to deliberately cut an expanse of the bridge lying on the ship's bow. Ahead of the controlled demolition, U.S. Coast Guard Admiral Shannon Gallereath said that the crew would remain below deck with a fire crew at the ready. They're part of the ship. They are necessary to keep the ship staffed and operational. They're the best responders on board the ship themselves. While the ship is likely to be refloated this week, it remains unclear when it will be able to make the 2 nautical mile journey to port. Among those who have been in touch with the crew is Joshua Messick, Executive Director of the Baltimore International Seafarers Center, a nonprofit organization that works to protect the rights of mariners. According to Mr. Messick, the crew has been left largely without communication with the outside world for a couple of weeks after their phones were confiscated by the FBI as part of their criminal investigation. They can't do any online banking. They can't pay their bills at home. They don't know if any of their data or anyone else's contact information, so they're isolated right now. They just can't reach out to folks that they need to, or even look at pictures of their children before they go to sleep. It's a really sad situation. The plight of the sailors also attracted the attention of 2 unions representing them, the Singapore Maritime Officers Union and the Singapore Organization of Seamen. In a joint statement on May 11th, the union said that morale has understandably dipped, driven by unfounded fear of personal criminal liability and emotional distress. The statement also called for the swift return of the crew's phones, noting that losing communication with family members is causing a significant amount of hardship for crew members with young children at home. Dave Hendow, the president of the Seafarers International Union, said that however long the investigation takes, the crew's rights and welfare should not be infringed upon. We call on the authorities to be mindful that seafarers utilize mobile devices to conduct personal business, for bill payments, and more important, transfer money to their home country to sustain families. Crew members are becoming demoralized without the basic tools we all take for granted. Andrew Middleton, who runs Apostle Ship of Sea, a program that ministers to ships coming through Baltimore, told the BBC he visited the sailors 2 weeks ago and found them in good spirits despite constant worries. Once we broke the ice and got everyone to say their name and what part of India they were from and talk about if they were married or had children, we got the ball rolling. They were willing to kind of poke fun at one another a little bit. We did our best to get them laughing and joking, and hopefully they take their minds off of things for even a few minutes. So I think you all have a good idea of what's going on here now. And my question is, what does the FBI think they may find in these cell phones? Do they think that there was some type of communications with a terrorist organization or something along those lines? It's just really weird that, a boating accident turned into a criminal investigation where it seems as if the FBI is individually looking into every single crew member on board. Usually in these type of investigations, I understand that they may come and get some of the recordings from the ship. Maybe you want to pull some of the footage and you want to pull certain information. But getting individual cell phones, that lets you know that there may be a possibility here, or the FBI at least thinks there's a possibility, that someone aboard this crew could be tied to something. Whatever that something is. I don't want to speculate too much. But then another question arises. How much of this is the FBI possibly trying to prevent the crew on board from actually telling their side of the story and getting information out there about what they feel like happened? Because at the end of the day, FBI can look into it. People can film videos from across the street. I want to hear from the people on board. What do you all think actually happened? What did you all experience? And the fact that this ship was already having problems, they should have never brought it in to where it could have caused a danger like what it did. And the crazy part is, it looks like eventually they're going to send this ship right back out there. They're going to send it right back out there to crash into more bridges. That's how the story ends. But as of right now, it's been a complete nightmare for everyone on board. They have no idea what's going on. They have no idea when they're getting home. They're not allowed to talk to anyone. They don't know how their bills are being paid at home and things like that. And I feel blessed that I'm not trapped in one of those situations. I can tell you that. But for now, let me know your thoughts. What do you think is going on here? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.